Welcome to the driver's seat. For quite some time, we've been telling you that Audi and the VW group in general is going full electric, and this vehicle, the all-new Audi e-tron, really symbolizes that. It's a full battery electric vehicle, about the same size as the recently launched Audi Q8, and actually when you factor in the federal tax credit, about the same price. It's Quattro, but not Quattro like we're used to, because you don't have an internal combustion engine. Again, you have two electric motors, one powering the front wheels and one powering the rear wheels. We're very impressed, and we're going to do a deep dive into what this e-tron is all about and how it fits into the marketplace, which has some very strong competitors. For years, Audi's grille has been its signature, and it continues to be so with the e-tron, except that you basically have a closed-off grille because you don't need ventilation, because there's no motor here. The motor is underneath. I think it's very stylish. Some people say it didn't go far enough, because when you look at something like the Rivian, you have a lot of LED lights that really screams, I'm an electric vehicle. You have two wheel options, a 20 and 21 inch, but you can actually go down to a 19-inch wheel if you live in colder climate. We're actually here in Lake Tahoe, where it's been snowing, even though it's almost June, and that might have come in handy. There are several distinctive styling cues for the e-tron. Of course, you have the charging port with the e-tron badging here. This is going to be a key element of this vehicle. Even though the range is only rated at 206 miles per hour, which is not quite the 260 we thought we were going to get, it does charge faster than any other vehicle, thanks to the 150 kilowatt battery that can accept such a charge. And today we charged 80% in about 30 minutes. So pretty impressive to get about 160 miles of range in just 30 minutes. We're really getting closer and closer to what a fill-up would be. Audi refers to this insert as the blade, and it's one of the many distinctive styling cues you will find in the e-tron. The ride height is adjustable. You can raise it up as much as 2 inches and lower it by 1 inch. You could do that manually, or you could do that automatically. More e-tron distinctive badging in the back, and as you can imagine, because it's an electric vehicle, you don't have any tailpipe, so a very clean rear end. Let's talk about the cargo room, because you have 57 cubic feet of space. The Q8, by comparison, has 60, so very similar. Another thing that is unique to this e-tron compared to its competition is that you actually have a spare tire here. It's not a full-size spare, it's a compact spare, but a lot of the competitors don't even offer that. Ordinarily in the review, this is where I lift up the hood and talk about the engine. Since this has two motors, we're not going to do that. We are going to talk about this front trunk storage area. This is a great place to put your charger, and it comes standard with the vehicle. This is both a level 1 and level 2 charger. So if you have 110 or 240 volts at home, whatever you have, this will work with both. And you really want to get level 2, trust me. So let's talk a little bit about some of the metrics. So you have 402 horsepower, that's with the boost. So in sport mode, when you mash the accelerator all the way down, you can expect 402 horsepower. That'll propel you to 60 miles an hour in 5.5 seconds. Top speed, 124 miles per hour. Oh, and you also get 4,000 pounds of towing. As you can see, the interior of the e-tron is very familiar, follows the same design language as the Q8 and the A6, A7, A8 that we have driven recently. You have a beautiful infotainment screen, and this dual system just works brilliantly. Again, we mentioned massaging seats, a very nice feature that you won't really find in a lot of electric vehicles, because it's supposed to be more of a minimalist, kind of go green, but Audi says, no, this is going to be a luxury, pure battery electric vehicle, and they have delivered on that promise. You have a brilliant head-up display, definitely one of the best in the industry. Overall, I've always said that Audi makes some of the best interiors, and this is no exception. What I don't care for is this brown wood. I think it's completely out of place compared to the rest of the vehicle. This is a very contemporary looking vehicle. I see a lot of black and metal and piano black, but this should have been metal or carbon fiber or something. Don't really care for it, so I would say that's kind of a fail on Audi's part, but that's just my personal taste. You may think it's beautiful, and that's fine. The instrument cluster is unique to the e-tron, of course, because it's a battery electric vehicle. A lot of good information here. Really want to talk about, though, some of the unique features. So there's a brand new shifter here, which we just really love. Both my co-driver and I enjoyed it. It's just very industrial looking, but also very modern, very contemporary, and I'd like to see them put this in other Audi vehicles. Some of the unique features of this vehicle, in the sense that it's first for Audi, you have this integrated toll module. What does that mean? Well, if you live somewhere where you have toll roads, it's actually integrated into here. So you put your credit card in, you don't have to stop, you don't have to worry about accounts. It's all integrated into the vehicle. And this is the first Audi to get it, but we imagine others are going to get it. So they're kind of using this e-tron platform to launch some unique features, and it works. They need to bring attention to this vehicle, but I think the styling and the packaging and the pricing are going to really do that on their own. Now we need to talk about the elephant in the room, and that's the range. At 208 miles, it's certainly not the best in the segment. There are several vehicles, and less expensive vehicles, like the Kona EV, for example, that have significantly more range. And we don't really understand why that is, because that's certainly a departure from what Audi told us. And we think it is going to be a problem in the marketplace, because people are always looking at that number. But to offset that, Audi has this fast charging system. They're the only ones with the 150 kilowatt capable battery. And they've partnered up with Electrify America, and they are building a network of chargers, almost 500 of them, and most of them will have 150 kilowatts. So that's the one we use today, and that's the one that yielded a 80% charge in about 30 minutes. So very, very manageable. But they also tell us that 90% of pure battery electric vehicle owners charge at home. So if you're charging at home, it doesn't really matter. But again, you're going to have this range issue. We were really hoping to take this car from Sacramento down to San Diego and see if we can do it on a couple of chargers, but unfortunately we weren't able to do that test. We'll do that another time. But that's what this Electrify America will allow electric vehicle owners to do, especially, you can probably do it in other vehicles, of course you can, but in this car you could do it much faster. So your stopovers will be 30 minutes instead of maybe a couple of hours. The other thing is that if you look at the charging curve of this Audi e-tron, that's very important. You get most of your charge in the beginning, and then it tapers off. When you look at Tesla and other battery electric vehicles, you have this spike, and it's really slow in the beginning, and it's going to take you a lot longer to charge. So you don't just have to look at the numbers as far as capacity. You also have to think about the time, because your time is important, and you don't want to be spending hours and hours at these charging stations. But overall, let's talk a little bit about the driving impressions. Audi purposely put us on a typical drive, not a battery electric vehicle or hybrid drive where it's just flat roads and nothing very exciting. As you can see, plenty of power. You have 3 levels of regenerative braking, which is controlled by this paddle, and they work great. This trip today, over 200 miles, we barely used the brakes, and that also helps with maintenance. The maintenance plan on this vehicle is relatively non-existent. You just don't have to do much, because you have these sealed electric motors, and the batteries, they're guaranteed for 8 years, 100,000 miles. And the way they designed this battery pack, you have these isolated modules. And why is that important? Well, they'll be able to isolate which ones are bad if they go bad, and they'll replace them under the warranty. So a lot of thought has gone into that. And the other thing that's enabled this fast charging is this cooling and heating that they've added into the battery pack. And why is that important? Well, the batteries will accept the charge much faster if they're ready to go. And If they're too hot, they can be cooled. If they're too cold, they can be heated. So there's a lot going on, a lot of technology that has gone into this vehicle. I just wish it would have translated into more range, because unfortunately, I think this car is going to be judged in the marketplace by its range, and 206 is fine for me, but I think for some customers, it may be a deal breaker. Like all Audis, you have traditional driving modes. You have your drive select, which will take you into efficiency, comfort, auto, dynamic, or individual, where you can just customize it. Also, you're in drive. If you hold down again, you go to sport. And this is where you get that extra boost for the extra horsepower. So you're going to push it down, and it's going to kind of come to a stop, but then you push through, and that's where you get that extra power. So this vehicle is certainly not short on performance. Like the handling, steering, really overall, just they did a great job. They stayed very true to their roots and didn't want any kind of compromise. After all, Audi is a sporty luxury brand, and they didn't want to lose sight of that. Audi really went out of their way to make sure this is a no compromise vehicle. What I mean by that is, for example, these roof rails. They want you to know that just because it's an electric vehicle doesn't mean you can't put a bicycle rack or a kayak up here. You also see the panoramic sunroof. A lot of the same type of features you find in their non-electric vehicle crossovers, and that's very important to Audi owners, so you could see a very seamless transition. So overall, I'm impressed. I'm not blown away, because I'd like to see better range out of this vehicle, but when you consider the pricing, the driving dynamics, the styling cues, and also all the luxury appointments like the massaging seats, it's really a pretty good, solid package. Time will tell how it does in the market. I predict it's going to do pretty well, because you have a great loyal following for the Audi brand, very strong dealer network, and I think they've packaged it just right. I'm Ron Doran. Thanks for watching. See you next time on The Driver's Seat.